Are you afraid to be seen? This behavior might show up in your relationships, in your business, or in most areas of your life. And if this resonates even a little bit, don't worry, today we're going to get into it. Hey there, welcome back to Align TV. My name is Jen. I'm a coach and healer, and I'm here to help you uplevel your life starting on the inside. And today we are talking about the fear of being seen. Oh, honey, because this is something I have struggled with so much in the past. And in fact, it is something I continue to struggle with to this day. So I know a lot about what it feels like to not want to be fully seen, whether that is in your relationships, in your business, or in any other area of your life. So first I want to talk about what that actually feels like, the fear of being seen, because it's not like you are actually telling yourself, I'm afraid to be seen. This is one of those sneaky toxic mindsets that's a little bit invisible. You don't really know it's there unless you can start to see the pattern. So this might show up in your relationships if you are afraid to speak up for yourself, if you are afraid to ask for what you want or what you need. That is definitely a fear of being seen. That behavior also ties a lot into people pleasing, which is a whole different topic for another day. But the fear of being seen is part of that. If you have a business like me, if you are making content online, maybe you have a fear of being seen in that way. Maybe you become too busy to make those TikToks that you know you should be making. Maybe you really want to start a podcast or a YouTube channel, but it never seems like you are feeling ready for it. Or maybe you just know you are ready to go to the next level in your business, but there is something holding you back from getting there. That can all stem from the same issue, a fear of being seen. Of course, if you don't feel comfortable with yourself or with your message, you are going to come up with all kinds of excuses for why you can't make the TikTok, make the podcast, or put yourself out there in a bigger way. A fear of being seen can also show up in your friendships, of course. Again, if you are that people pleaser type, if you are afraid to ask for what you need or what you want, if you are afraid to just be your fabulous self, then yeah, you probably have a fear of being seen. And of course, it can also show up in a more traditional 9-to-5 job. If you are afraid to raise your hand, to ask for the promotion, or to talk about how amazing you are at your job, that can also be a fear of being seen. The fear of being seen, as you can tell, is actually a huge topic, and I've only just skimmed the surface here with some examples of how it might be manifesting in your life. But if any of that sounds familiar, maybe now you are wondering, well, where does the fear of being seen come from? Like most everything else in our life, usually it extends back to our childhood. So if you are struggling with a fear of being seen in your life, I'm going to guess that you did not feel seen as a child for whatever reason. That might come from a parent who was really not there, who was completely emotionally distant, somebody who was straight up not in your life at all. Or maybe you had a narcissistic parent who wanted the spotlight on them all the time and therefore taught you that you asking for what you need and what you want was somehow not safe. Basically, if you learned at a young age that it is not safe for you to be you, if it is not safe for you to speak up for what you want or what you need, or your parents made fun of you or mocked you or punished you for asking for what you wanted or needed, then you are probably still struggling to do that as an adult, even though you have left the family home a long time ago. What I want you to know is that this fear of being seen is really common, and it is not your fault. Humans are really funny creatures. We are so intelligent and we are so strong in so many ways, but sometimes we get a little bug in the program inside of our brain and we end up carrying that thing around with us for the rest of our life. Of course, this can happen in more ways than just the fear of being seen, but that is the topic of what we're talking about today. So now you know what it is, and now you know where it came from. Let's dig a bit more into the fear of being seen, because I really think that there's more to it than just the fear of putting yourself out there. So the first fear that goes hand in hand with the fear of being seen is the fear of not being liked. Fundamentally, as humans, we are tribal creatures. We actually thrive when we are in community. Thousands of years ago, when we were hunter and gatherer tribes, it was actually physically harmful for you to be expelled from your community to have to go and live by yourself. Like that was actually a physical threat to your survival. So even though we are not in any physical danger anymore, we are no longer hunters or gatherers, some part of your brain still perceives not being liked and being shunned and being pushed away as being physically harmful. This feels really unsafe in our body. So many times we will do anything to be liked. We will do anything to avoid conflict. We will do anything not to be pushed away from our community. And maybe right now you're saying, well, that doesn't sound so bad. Like if everyone likes me, isn't that okay? The big problem here, however, is that sometimes we end up sacrificing who we are in order to get that like. And that doesn't feel good either. So we tell ourselves that sacrificing our authenticity or our morals is okay if people are going to continue to like us. But actually, it's a very stressful experience to live out of alignment, to have to pretend that you are somebody else, or to always have to placate the people around you in order to keep their friendship or to keep their love. So basically, the fear of being liked is a natural fear and part of being human. However, if we buy into that fear too much, we end up doing ourselves a disservice in a different way. And we end up in this really complicated place where we just do not feel powerful or happy. The second fear that I have noticed, if we dig into the fear of being seen a little bit more, very much related to what we were just talking about, but that is the fear of not wanting to ask for what you need or want. So congratulations, you are human and you are going to have needs and you are going to have desires. And it should feel safe for you to speak about those things. That doesn't necessarily mean that everyone can accommodate you all the time, but it is a very important human adult skill to know what you want and especially to know what you need. When you communicate that to the people around you, the people that really love you are going to be able to help you out with that, or they're going to want to help you out with that at least some of the time. If people actually don't care about what you need or what you want inside of the relationship, you have to start to question whether or not they actually care about you. But again, this fear of being seen and this fear of not wanting to speak up for ourselves, these things go hand in hand. We are, again, so terrified that if we say what we want or what we need, that we will be shunned or that someone won't like us or love us as much as we want them to. We just learn how to hide those needs and to hide those likes away and just to pretend that you're the cool girl who never needs or wants anything. We all saw Gone Girl, and you know what being the cool girl ends up like. In other words, you have to make it a priority to not only know what you need or want, but to start to feel safe to communicate that to other people. If you were taught as a child that this was not safe, it's going to take some work. It's going to take some practice. Especially if your parent didn't like it, you are going to feel even more unsafe doing this. That's because when you're a kid and your parent is taking care of you, losing that parent's love, again, is similar to being in physical danger. However, you are not in physical danger anymore. You are an adult who is in control of your whole entire life and your friend group. If there are people in your friend group who cannot meet you at a minimum level. Again, we're not asking people to become your servant and to do every single thing you say. That is not the point here. But the point is, sometimes you're going to want something, you're going to need something, and it should feel okay for you to say that. And if it doesn't, and the problem is in here, then you know you need to do some work on healing. I could talk about this stuff all day. I'm not going to, but I'm going to get into one more fear that is closely intertwined with the fear of being seen, and that is the fear of intimacy. Yes, the fear of intimacy, which maybe you think sounds insane, especially if you are that person who is looking for that next romantic relationship, that next deep connection, and you think that that is all you want in the world. Like, how can I possibly be afraid of intimacy because I want this thing so badly? Again, we have a very sneaky monkey brain inside of our mind that is very good at one thing, which is keeping you safe. And if you happened to learn when you were a little tiny child that you needed to perform in order to be loved, or that you needed to fulfill a certain role. You had to be the good girl, the good boy. You had to always smile and be helpful, and you had to do this or you had to do that. You had to get good grades. You had to do all the chores. You had to do something in order to be loved. Then you probably are walking into your adult romantic relationships feeling this transaction happening inside of your mind. You have been trained to think that you need to do something in order to be loved or to be somebody other than who you are. So this is a really tricky thing to deal with. Fundamentally, as humans, we all want unconditional love. However, many of us go into relationships and immediately put that mask up. We pretend to be the cool guy, the cool girl. We don't talk about our own needs, our own preferences, our own desires. And then we feel surprised that this relationship is not fulfilling us the way we want it to, when in fact, we never went into it being our authentic self. Again, this is not something that you should feel badly about if this resonates with you. If you were literally taught that it was not safe to be your authentic self when you were a child, you are going to be struggling to be your authentic self right now. But I want you to just close your eyes for a moment and imagine what that would be like. If you didn't have to fake it, if you didn't have to perform, if you didn't have to be funny, if you didn't have to be overly nice, and you were in a relationship with somebody, what would that be like? Who would you be without the performance, without the masks, without pretending to be somebody else? And yes, we're probably all going to do this to a certain degree because you always put your best foot forward when you first meet somebody. But honestly, we set ourselves up for failure when we are too fake. But more importantly, we cut ourselves off from the thing that we want the most, which is to be loved and accepted exactly as we are. If it is that kind of relationship that you crave, can you be brave enough to be authentically you inside of a new connection or inside of an existing connection? Because you can do this even if you're already in a relationship and performing. So now I've told you about some of the fears that are intertwined with this. And now you might be wondering, well, how the heck do I get out of it? How do I start being seen? The answer to this is going to depend on your specific patterns. I'll give you an exercise to start with here, which is really wonderful for you, especially if you struggle with speaking up. I'm just going to give you this homework right now, which is learning how to talk about what you want. And that is it. You are just going to give yourself homework that you're going to tell somebody, friend, boyfriend, whoever, something that you want. And you're going to do it in a way that you're not expecting that person necessarily to take action on it. Like you're not telling somebody what to do. You are just saying what you want. So maybe you have a big group text going and people are trying to figure out where everyone's going to eat dinner on Friday. And usually you would hang back, let the crowd figure it out. I'm going to challenge you to make a suggestion. Make a suggestion about what you would like people to do. And again, we're not forcing them to do it. The whole act here is simply you learning how to use your voice and to put it out there. You learning how to own what you want and know what you want, which that's a whole other skill in itself. But learn what that is, listen to what that is, and say it to somebody. Honestly, we seem to go through life with this ridiculous idea that we can just want something and need something and the people around us will figure it out. And that really does not work out well for anyone. So let's collectively learn how to stop doing that and also learn how to be seen. And that starts with us learning how to use our own voice. Let your words come out of you. Let your preferences come out of you. And even if they are not met or acknowledged even, that is okay. The practice here is getting used to using your voice. Using your own voice is part of how you learn to be seen. This exercise might sound like it has nothing to do with your career, for example. It might sound like it has nothing to do with your love life. But as I always say, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So doing this one little tiny exercise, maybe with your friends, can have a ripple effect into the other areas of your life. So if you start doing this one tiny little practice, just speaking up, using your voice, putting your preferences out there, you are going to slowly start feeling more comfortable taking up space and being seen. And yes, this will have a ripple effect and carry over into the other parts of your life, even though it has nothing to do with the area where you were doing your homework. So go ahead, try that one out. Thank you so much for being here. If you liked this and you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, give me a like, hit subscribe. Have a beautiful week, and I will see you in the next one.